Email newsletters have become one of the most reliable ways for travel bloggers to grow an audience and earn a consistent income. And Substack, a platform designed for writers, makes it easier than ever to publish, promote, and even monetize a newsletter without needing any complex tech. But how do you actually create a newsletter on Substack that attracts readers and turns them into paying subscribers? Well, that is exactly what our guest, award-winning travel writer and author TimLeffel will be breaking down for us. Along with running the Cheapest Destinations blog, he's been able to grow his Nomadico Substack newsletter to over 21,000 subscribers and counting, and has turned it into a successful monetization stream. And today, he'll be sharing his best tips to help you do the same. But first, I want to direct your attention to the video description or the QR code on your screen, where I've shared a link to my free travel blogger resource library. Inside, you'll snag access to 75 plus resources, from cheat sheets to workbooks to workshops to video tutorials that can help you truly turn your blog into a profitable business. And that includes a Substack success cheat sheet to pair with today's video. I am all about implementation, and I really want to make sure that you don't just watch this video and forget about it, but that you actually use what is shared to make your blogging life easier. Feel free to even pause this video to go grab those resources. You back? Then let's dive in. So Tim, thank you so much for taking the time to share your tips. To start, can you just share more about yourself, your business, and what led you to start publishing on Substack?
Sure. Well, I'm a full-time travel writer, and I've been on my own since 2006. So I guess next year will be my 20th anniversary. And that's also when I launched Perceptive Travel, which is one of the websites I run. And I was doing it before that, part-time, side hustle, whatever. But since then, it's been my main income. The Substack newsletter, I think I started about 3 years ago, and it's been a really interesting experiment. I've had lots of other newsletters before, attached to my different sites, just running through normal services like MailChimp or Aweber or whatever. But this has been a different animal. It's been the most successful one I've run by far, both from the number of subscribers and the income from it. So, I'm bullish on the platform because I think it offers a good opportunity for writers that are serving a certain audience or have a certain niche that they're kind of the subject expert in.
Yeah, I know I get asked about Substack all the time, and that's why I'm so excited to have you on here, because I've never used it personally. So I think this will be pretty new for most people. So I'd love to just start with the basics. What are some of the key advantages of using Substack for travel bloggers, especially when compared with some of the more general email marketing platforms?
Yeah, I think the big difference is it kind of lives in public, first of all. Like normally when you send out a newsletter, it's just between you and your subscribers, and that's it. And the other people can't see it. That could be good or bad, depending on your point of view. But the other thing is it definitely has the network effect. Like, you get those things from Amazon. Like if you like this product, you'll probably like that one, and they'll send you recommendations. Well, Substack does the same thing. So if you subscribe to a newsletter about French poodles, then you'll start seeing other ones that are somewhat related to that showing up as a recommendation. And for us in travel, that's good because people come into the door that way that don't even know who you are, but they came to you through another newsletter and somebody recommended you, or you just showed up naturally. And so that's a big advantage. The other thing is, like, when you compare it to like ConvertKit or Beehive or some of the others, it's not really meant for e-commerce companies. It's not meant for people trying to put you into a sales funnel so they can sell you 20 different things. It's more of a platform for creators and journalists and writers and artists. It's a different kind of ecosystem, I think, because people are making money on there, and you can pay to be a subscriber and whatever, but it's not so in your face as like a product company where every email they send out is about their products.
I'm curious, when actually launching on Substack, how do you recommend bloggers define their niche or focus so their newsletter stands out from all of the other ones on there?
Yeah, there's a few ways you could approach it. I mean, you could sort of look at this as niching down even further, maybe, or going into an area that's kind of related to what you've been blogging about, but, we'll have different content. So that way you're not, trying to just do the same articles twice. But it definitely does pay to, have a clear focus, and also I would say to have a clear editorial schedule in mind, whether that's twice a month or every week or twice a week or whatever. I have noticed that the newsletters that do very well on there are like publishing on a regular basis, some of them every day, but they're not just putting up something this week and then 3 weeks from now when they get around to it, they put up something again. I think you can get away with that pretty easily for regular newsletter services, and I do with some of mine. But I think this one needs to be more thought out in terms of what's the schedule going to be that you can actually stick to. For me, it's once a week, and that has worked out fine, but I know people are more frequent and less frequent than that. But yeah, I mean, spend a lot of time on the focus. Take a long walk, or spend a day at the beach or the lake or something and figure it out, because you're going to be stuck with it. And so it's good, just like when you're starting a blog, it can evolve over time, but I think it helps to know where you're headed.
Now, your Substack newsletter, Nomadico, reaches over 21,000 subscribers, which is really impressive. What strategies helped you grow that audience on Substack?
Yeah, it kind of makes me look smarter than I really am. I think a lot of it just kind of happened organically and through referrals. But one thing that gave us a head start is this is a sister newsletter to one called Recommendo. And I teamed up with those guys, with Kevin Kelly to start with, but then there's two other team members. And they put it into their newsletter. And like right off the bat, we had more than 2,000 subscribers, which is not something that most people, can benefit from. You can't usually get that much of a head start, but we did, which was really nice. So we never started out with nothing, like shouting to the wind, which I've done before with others. It's hard to start at zero, but, almost everybody has to do it. But this one we started at 2000, which was really nice, like from the very first issue. And then it's built up from there. And what has really helped over time is it's been a very slow and steady growth. I mean, not too slow, like, 100, 200, 300 a month. But every once in a while, someone else will recommend us somebody that has a lot more of a following. And then we'll get a spike, get like 1,000 in 1 month, which is really nice. And there have been a few spikes like that. But every week it's gone higher. You automatically get some unsubscribes every time, no matter what. But we've been able to make up for that each week and, have positive growth. But the recommendation issue has been huge. And I know you're going to give a talk at a travel bloggers conference about opt-ins and giveaways. And I do those on my other newsletters. But this one, we've never had any kind of giveaway. Like we give the paid subscribers something, but the free ones we basically say, hey, sign up for our newsletter, and that's it. And that really does work with something like this. And part of that's the focus, once again, which is why I'm saying that's so important. Like our ideal customer, our avatar, our reader is somebody who is still working and is traveling around a lot. Someone who takes their laptop with them and gets work done on the road, whether they're going for 2 weeks or they're a digital nomad that's on the road constantly, or they're an expat that kind of has the hub and spoke system. They have a base, but they're traveling a lot and going somewhere else. So, we have some retirees on there that are subscribers, but that's not our main focus. We call it the newsletter for working travelers.
Do you do any cross promotion with your websites at all, or your social content or anything like that?
A little bit, yeah. I'll throw something up on my socials now and then, just says, hey, come join us if you're a working traveler and you want to get some 4 quick bites each week, come subscribe over here. But that hasn't been a big part of it. Like I'll get a few from that now and then, but I've gotten more just from other people recommending us or from Substack's own system. And the other thing I didn't mention before is you have followers on there too. Like, so you have, let's say we have 21,500 subscribers. We probably have 3 or 4 times that are followers. And that's kind of weird because people can just click a button and follow you, but then they only see your stuff if they're in the Substack app. So it's kind of like a more passive form of people reading your content. They just pop in every once in a while, but it still helps. It helps the click through levels and the number of reads and that kind of thing.
When people follow you, correct me if I'm wrong, I think Substack also has almost like a social component where you can make like posts. Is that what
they call
would
it
see?
notes? Yeah. So
Got it.
I don't do that too often, but you can. one thing I'll do is just say, hey, if you're a follower, not a subscriber, here's the new issue, just to get those people another reminder. But yeah, sometimes I'll put something on there. Like I had something political in a post 2 weeks ago and got a bunch of angry emails, not a bunch, but like a dozen. And so I just put some literal quotes in a notes and say, oh, here's the kind of fun you can look forward to if you put something political in your newsletter. But whatever, it comes with the territory. I always look at that as a good list cleaning mechanism. Like if somebody is so far to the right that they're going to send me this disjointed, angry email, then they probably didn't belong there in the first place.
I'm curious. I had just asked about promoting your newsletter on your blog. Do you ever do it the other way around to grow traffic? Do you ever like promote your blog posts or website in the newsletter to try to grow traffic, or are there other strategies for growing traffic to your website with Substack?
Yeah, that's a really good point. It works better in the other direction, actually. So it hasn't maybe added all that many subscribers, but then if I link to one of my blog posts in there, I'll get 700, 800, 1,000 hits from it, which is amazing. Like I've never seen any of my newsletters get that kind of action before. So it's a beautiful thing, especially if you're on an ad network like Mediavine or Raptive or whatever. Those are page views, and that contributes to your ad views, your display ads. So it definitely helps. And sometimes I'll have affiliate links in those posts, so it will help drive some sales of travel gear or hotel bookings or something like that. So yeah, that's been really useful. I try not to overdo it and wear out my welcome. I only do that like once every 3 or 4 weeks where I'll link to one of my own blog posts. I don't want it to be the TimLeffel show. I'm trying to link out to useful resources and recommendations of products and things like that. I don't want it to just be an engine for publicizing my blog. But if it's something that's relevant to that audience, then I will put it in there and I will get a lot of traffic from it. So yeah, it works well. I mean, the click-through rate on that newsletter is insane. And we'll post an Amazon link in there and get like 1,200 clicks on it, which is unreal. And, maybe they only are paying 3%, but still, that's a lot of traffic. And, a lot of times the beauty of Amazon is people don't just buy one thing, they'll go in there and add 5 other things to their cart and you get a commission on those as well.
When you promote your blog post, is it more like, in a regular non-Substack newsletter, you can mention it, you can have a text link, you can have like a carousel of your latest posts. Is it more you're writing about something and then if it just fits naturally into whatever you're writing, you'll add it? Or is it a little bit of a different strategy?
Yeah, it's a natural fit in terms of the content. I should mention our format because that's probably quite important to the success. It's just 4 paragraphs each week that are either recommendations or news items or, maybe something about a visa change, something that would be relevant to this audience. A lot of, travel gadgets and clothing and things, but things I've used that I really like, not something that's just landed on my doorstep from some random PR person. I mean, it's things that I really use that I throw into my suitcase. For example, the one I linked to last that was on my own blog was a rundown of all the travel gear companies that have a lifetime warranty. And so that's really relevant to this audience because it's stuff that'll last and it'll hold up. If you're a frequent traveler, your wheels aren't going to fall off your suitcase 2 trips in if you get a suitcase from one of these companies. And so that was quite relevant. And sometimes I'll write about living abroad advice, on a specific subject, and that's relevant to this crowd or something for digital nomads. But, I'm not going to link to some random post about some trip I took, to some obscure place that nobody's going to go. I mean, I'll put those on my blog and I don't mind, but I wouldn't link to it from this newsletter because it's just got too limited of an appeal.
That makes sense. And I know a lot of people are going to have questions about monetization. And I know you had mentioned that you've created multiple revenue streams with Nomadico. I think you had mentioned paid subscriptions, direct unclassified ads, I think you'd called them, and affiliate marketing. Can you walk us through how each of those works and some best practices for seeing success?
Yeah, and I do want to give credit to Recommendo because I basically just stole their format, like they're my partner, so it's not really stealing, but I use the exact same format they use. And so that was a very easy decision on how to set it up. It's like, all right, it's working for them. Let's just try to do the same thing with travel and see if it works here. And it has. And I think that's one of the appeals, that it's pretty quick to get through each week, like I get some newsletters I really like that I kind of put aside because I know it's going to take a while, but this one, it can land in people's inbox. They can skim through it, click on what they think is interesting, and just move on. It doesn't take a lot of time out of their day. And so the unclassifieds at the bottom, I mentioned the actual newsletter is just 4 paragraphs. And then at the bottom, we have these even shorter unclassified ads that are like tweet length or threads length or whatever. And those are paid, and someone can buy 1 week or they can buy 4. And we just run those at the bottom. But again, they're pretty relevant usually. They're like what we have right now is for an international driver's license company. There's one that does property purchases in Japan. MedJet Assist is on there. They're one of those companies that will do sort of medical evacuation, get you to a home hospital if you need it. So, they're usually pretty in line with the content. And so they get pretty high click-through rates, and, most people get business from it. Sometimes we get ads for other newsletters, which is interesting because they want to move some of that traffic over. And then, yeah, we have everyone on Substack has the option to set up a paid plan where you can have paid subscribers who give you a certain amount per month or a certain amount per year. And people handle that in different ways. Sometimes they offer more content. Sometimes they offer like a special Facebook group access or whatever. All we do is we give them an ebook that's a compilation of the first 2 years of like a curated list of things that are kind of evergreen that we took from the newsletter. And then I do a quarterly call if anybody wants to join, where I'll just answer questions. But honestly, I don't get very high engagement on that. I think people are mostly just doing it to support us, kind of like a Patreon sort of thing. And that's fine too if they want to do that. And so those are the two things apart from what I mentioned already, which is affiliate ads. Sometimes we'll put affiliate links to Amazon. We also have some through travel payouts or from Commission Junction that I'll put in the body of the article if it really makes sense. But most of the time, we just use those as fill-ins at the bottom if we don't sell out on the unclassifieds, which these days we haven't had to do that very much. We've been selling out a lot, so I think I'm going to raise our prices soon. But, we do kind of use them now and then where, like if we're talking about transportation in Europe, like trains in Europe, I'll put a link to Omeo or something like that, or BusBud if we're talking about buses. But most of the time, they're just in the ads at the bottom.
You mentioned the classified sell out a lot. Are you doing like weekly outreach for that? Is it more like there's a spot in your newsletter on your website where people can contact you to get sponsorship spots, or how does that work?
Yeah, it's that. We just have something in italics at the bottom every week saying if you want to appear on here, click this link to get 1 week or click here to get 4. There used to be this great service that went away that I can't remember what they were called. And now there's this other one called Paved where you can advertise your newsletter in there and accept advertising. But honestly, we haven't gotten one from there for 6 or 8 months probably. It never really was big volume. The other one did better, but I'm blanking on the name, but it doesn't matter. They're gone anyway. So, yeah, none of the other stuff has worked that well. I know if you're on Beehive, they have a built-in system where you can sell ads on there. I don't know, again, how successful that is. I mean, I think it mostly just ends up covering the fees for a lot of people. But that's one thing we should mention. Substack doesn't have a fee directly like you pay with MailChimp or Beehive or Kit or one of those, which can add up, and it's hard to make your money back when you're starting out. But with Substack, they don't charge you, except they take a percentage of what your paid subscribers pay. So I think it's 10%. It's not much. So really, that's all we're paying them is 10% of our paid subscriber fees. So it seems like a pretty good deal. I have a feeling it's going to go up at some point, but I don't know. I think there's kind of a system where the really big players are subsidizing the rest. Like there are some Substack newsletters that have like 2 or 3 or 4,000 paid subscribers, so that's a chunk of change that Substack's getting each month. They're probably getting more than they would from MailChimp or something like that. So I guess it all evens out.
Yeah, and that's good to know, especially if someone's, so many platforms, whether it's email or product selling, these fees add up. So it is kind of nice when you're just paying per sale you make.
Yeah, exactly. Because, yeah, people talk about their tech stack or whatever. And for a blogger, there's a lot of little things, that add up to a sizable sum when you put them all together. And so you got to be conscious of all that.
Oh yeah, definitely. I have my spreadsheet of like income coming in, income going out. Because otherwise, yeah, when you actually tally that up, it took me years to actually create that spreadsheet, and it was pretty surprising how much
Yeah.
is going out.
And just one quick piece of advice for bloggers, even if you only got 100 people on your email list, don't be afraid to sell something, at least stick in an affiliate ad, or if you've got an ebook or something, people don't mind as much as you think they're going to mind, as long as you're not completely in their face about it. I mean, I have unsubscribed from some newsletters that are nothing but a sales pitch, and you don't want that. But you can just outright tell your followers, look, this is how I'm paying the bills. If you want to support me, buy through my Amazon link or book a hotel through my booking.com link, whatever. So I think it's fair if you're honest about it and just say, look, I got to pay to send this newsletter out. If you want to support me, buy through here. It's not going to cost you anymore.
Totally agree. And speaking of like selling and monetization, another way many bloggers do monetize is also selling digital products or running launches. You kind of touched on this before, but I'm curious if Substack can work well for things like product launches, sales funnels, or even just like pop up promotions like, hey, my course, my ebook, whatever is on sale for 15% off this week.
Yeah, I think it can, especially these people are real fans, they're opening up every week and clicking on things because they like what you sent. And so I don't think, as long as it's in the ballpark of what the newsletter's about. Now, if you put out a ebook about knitting, that might not be the best place to promote it, but as long as it's related, I think that's fine. And I run a couple of tours each year, and I will definitely put that in there when I'm opening them up. Again, not like in their face, just say it'll be in the ad section at the bottom. I'll be putting in there, hey, want to come skiing with me in Slovakia? Click this link for more info. Just very subtle, so that if people are interested, they'll click through. And if they're not interested, it won't bother them too much because it only took them 2 sentences to read.
And what about like more of the sales funnel thing where someone maybe grabs a freebie or joins the list in some way? Can you send automations, or does Substack not really have that aspect?
Yeah, it's pretty limited. They let you send a welcome email, and then I think you can do a follow up or two. But then after that, I don't think they want you to set up some super complicated funnel. Like, it's more about like getting people on your list so they're getting your regular publication each week, whatever that is. I think if Substack had their way, they would like everybody to be a paid subscriber, and that's how you make your money. But I think it's always going to be a small proportion that are going to do that. And so you got to figure out other ways that make sense for monetization as well.
Speaking of the subscriptions, I know you can have a free tier and then a paid tier. Can you have like a $9 tier, a $20 tier, and a $30 tier, or can you only pick one price?
No, you can do that, and you can include more things. For me, that's been too complicated, but for other people, it might make more sense. Part of that for us is like the content is meant to be brief, and so we don't want to give people more content. But for other newsletters, that's how they structure their tiers. You get, especially if it's financial, like if they're doing some kind of financial newsletter, then it's very easy for them to have different tiers. And the top one maybe is like a one-on-one call every month or something like that, and that's the super duper plan that you're paying $300 for. But then there are lower tiers where you just get into a private Facebook group, or you just get an additional newsletter with stock picks or something like that, for example. But with travel, it's kind of tough because there's not a lot of proprietary information out there.
I know you said it's kind of like Patreon. It almost reminds me of a membership in a way where it's like not just the newsletter itself. You mentioned private calls and giving away an ebook and things like that. So that's an interesting way to think about it.
Yeah, and maybe if you specialize in Italy, for instance, you could do one that's got, special itineraries, for different cities. And then maybe the top tier could be, I'll do a custom one for you for your vacation. So there are ways to be creative about that, especially if you have a local or regional blog. But I haven't gone that far.
Now, I wanted to talk about content a little bit, and you did touch on these things, so I'm curious if you have anything else to add about maybe what kind of content and publishing frequency have you found keeps people engaged and subscribers opening the emails?
Yeah, we just do once a week, and that seems to be a good frequency. Our open rate stays between like 50 and 60% no matter what, which is good. Like even if it's like the Thursday before a holiday or something, I send it out every Thursday. Like it'll dip a little bit if it's like before, everybody's going on vacation, but not a lot. So that to me says this is probably a pretty good frequency, and so we're going to stick with it. But I just heard this podcast interview with this guy that does this newsletter about Wichita, Kansas specifically. I think you're going there, so maybe you'll meet him. But he does 4 a week, I think, and each one's different. Like one of them's about events, one of them's about what to do this weekend, and one of them's more evergreen. So if you could divide it up like that, it might make more sense to do it more frequently. And especially if that's your main business. Like if the newsletter is your main business, then it makes sense to do it more often. But this is just one of many things I'm juggling, and so I don't really want to go more frequent than that. But maybe once a month is fine. If you think that's enough for your audience, that's how often I send some of my site newsletters, and it seems to be okay. I don't think they're really hankering for me to do one every week for them. They're getting what they need. So if someone tells me differently, then maybe I'll amp it up. But I haven't seen much evidence that it would help. I'm talking about a site where I only put up like 4 to 6 new articles every month. So for me, it doesn't make that much sense. But I do have an automated one through Grow via Mediavine for my cheapest destinations blog. And that goes out every week. And basically, each week there's a new post. And so that makes a lot of sense because there's no time investment. It just goes out automatically. I don't have to do anything. So, if you can take away the amount of time you have to invest, then you can do it more often.
That actually brings to mind, I can't remember if she's on Substack or something else, but I think this creator's name is Chef Demalfi. She's a vegan chef. What she does is a once a month newsletter where she shares her latest like vegan recipes. I forget the number of them, but then she turns it into a PDF cookbook that she then sells as a product. So you can buy her back issues, but each back issue is essentially a vegan cookbook. So I thought that was kind of a clever strategy of really making the most of your time investment. Like, yeah, making this newsletter and then it's going to be a digital product basically.
Yeah. And I've heard of people doing that and selling an ebook like, here's a year's worth of blog posts, and people buy it because they don't want to go read a year's worth of blog posts, and there is an advantage to having something on your Kindle or on your laptop that you don't have to be online for. We do sell that ebook we give away. I forgot to mention that. We give it away free to paid subscribers, but if people want to buy it, they can buy it. I think it's $8 or something like that. So, we do make a little money from that. I forgot to mention that before.
And that's kind of nice too, if it's something that people would usually pay for and then you're giving it to the subscribers as, this isn't just something anyone could get for free on my site.
Yeah.
Now, beyond content and timing, what specific tactics help you retain paid subscribers and encourage renewals?
Yeah. It's incredibly steady. Like every time somebody goes away, somebody else seems to sign up. So it's been like between 88 and 100 for as long as I can remember, which is kind of bad, I guess, because the free subscribers are going up and the paid are not. So maybe there's something I'm doing wrong there. But yeah, I try to stay in touch with them, and I try to offer this quarterly call, each month or each quarter. And but other than that, I'm not doing a lot of outreach to them because it doesn't seem like they're wanting that. Like if I had people really responding when I get in touch, then I would say, okay, they want to hear from me more often. But yeah, we're not very aggressive about it. There is something you can do in Substack that you can put in a button each time that says, hey, please upgrade to a paid subscriber. And I only do that like once every month or two because I don't want to bother people too much. I could probably be more aggressive about it and maybe put something on that notes feature I was talking about where it's like a tweet or a thread. But yeah, I don't know. It's like our overall income is pretty well divided between these different legs of the stool. And so maybe if I needed to, I could amp it up a little bit, but it hasn't been a big priority.
Yeah, and that makes sense too. It that's going to depend. Like, do you sell a lot of products? Do you work with brands, affiliates? Like, what's your main focus? And I'm sure each business is going to be a little bit different.
Yeah, our focus has been on reaching as many applicable people as possible. So I've been paying more attention to the overall subscriber numbers because we get a high open rate and we get a high click rate. So if those people are engaged, then I think we're doing something right, and I'm happy. I have been cleaning the list every once in a while too, because you get people on there sometimes that haven't opened anything for 6 months and haven't clicked on anything for 6 months, and so sometimes I'll just send a reminder out that says, "Hey, are you still alive? Then click on something so we know it, or let this photo show up so that you get registered." Because I don't think people realize that if they don't allow the HTML, they don't show up as an open, and that's true for like any kind of newsletter service. So if you like somebody's newsletter, then let the photos show up because otherwise they don't know you're reading it.
Yeah, that's actually really good to know. Well, thank you so much for sharing your tips. This was amazing. Before we sign off, can you just let everyone know where they can find you?
Sure. My longest running blog is the Cheapest Destinations blog. And then I mentioned that I run Perceptive Travel. But if you can just remember my name, I have a portfolio site at TimLeffel.com that links out to everything. So that's an easy way to find me. This Substack newsletter is just nomadico.substack.com. And yeah, one thing I wanted to mention along with this, people have been talking about it and asking you about it because I feel like all the social media platforms, the engagement just gets worse and worse over time, and your organic engagement goes down. And I feel like this is something that's still going up, so it's still on the upward swing instead of the downward spiral. So it's a good place to invest your time. And just newsletters in general, people spend so much more time on them and they open them so much more frequently than any social media platform out there. So it's a good way to engage with your people, your tribe, your followers, whatever, the people that are interested in the same thing you are.
Yeah, I could not agree more, especially with everything going on with AI and Google. I feel like it's the best way to be as algorithm proof as possible.
Yeah, for sure. And you can download your list from Substack. That's a misconception that some people have, that if you're on that platform, you don't own your list. But yes, you do. You can download it just like any other service.
Oh, that's very good to know. Well, thank you so much. I'll have all of your links and things in the show notes for the podcast and the video description for YouTube. All right, now I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you feel inspired and empowered to create, grow, and monetize a newsletter on Substack. Don't forget to grab access to the free travel blogger resource library linked in the video description or via the QR code on your screen. There are a ton of resources in there on growing your community and increasing your blogging profits, including a Substack success cheat sheet based on today's video. And of course, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss future videos sharing these strategies for bloggers who want to turn their blogs into profitable full-time businesses. Happy blogging!